Welcome back to Econ 2010 Microeconomics. This is the last video. Today we're going to be talking about equality and poverty. And yes, I am back home in beautiful Manti, Utah. You can see that we have some apricots coming up on the tree right now. It's looking good. But yes, today we're going to be talking about inequality and poverty and what makes you impoverished and what defines being impoverished. So without any further ado, let's get started. So in order for economists to actually understand poverty and inequality, we have to define them. And of course, there's going to be just a few graphs, but I don't think it's going to be too crazy. I want to explain first the Lorenz curve and how that builds into what economists use as the Genie coefficient in order to both better define inequality in societies, but also to describe how much inequality there is in societies. We're also going to be talking about what causes inequality. Then we're briefly going to move on to poverty in what defines it and exactly who is impoverished in both the world and in America today. This, my dear friends, is the Lorenz curve, okay? Now, a couple things. Right, I want to explain just a couple things to you, okay? So what this describes is we'll break them into 5 parts. We call them quintiles, right? So we have the bottom 20%, the mid 20%, and then of course the top 20% up here, right? Now, if all money is divided between, like, each 20% gets equal amount of the current cash in the system, it equals this straight line right here, okay? But this has never happened in the entire history of humanity. Instead, what we typically see is this curve right here, where the bottom 20% often get very little of the money. You can see here, this is the middle class right here. They receive much more of the money. And then, of course, the top 20% gets a lot of the money. So, yeah, I mean, this is pretty much typical. But let me show you how to figure this out mathematically. This is it. Okay, it's not a lot of math. I'm probably not going to ask you to use this kind of math on the final, but I do want you to kind of understand what the Genie coefficient comes from. And it comes from this Lorenz curve, right? This idea that inside this curve, between this line and all of this curve right here, is, we'll call this A. And then outside of this curve, we'll call this B. Now, what the Genie coefficient measures is the area inside this curve. So basically what it's saying is, if the Genie coefficient, let's say if this curve is very, very thin, the Genie coefficient is going to be very, very small, and that means that you're getting closer and closer to equality. But the bigger the Genie coefficient, the larger this A is, that means that you're going to have less and less equality and more inequality. And let me give you a few examples. Here is what inequality looks like across the major industrial countries. We call these the OECD countries. And we can see that there's not a lot of equality. Some places are more equal than others. And if we look, America right here is amongst one of the most unequal places in the world. And that's because a lot of things. We believe in a lot of capitalism, which inside of capitalism, we have to understand there's winners and there's going to be losers. And that's just how capitalism is. Now, is there more equal systems? Sure. But does that mean that you could ever reach a level of pure comfort? Maybe. Does that mean that you'll ever be completely rich? Maybe not. And I think that's what we've settled on in America, is trying to go after that American dream, trying to get to the top, right? And so we've settled on capitalism because of the opportunities that it has for all of us, even though we realize that within capitalism, we could go poor. We could very easily go poor. And that is one of the, I'm going to say, difficulties, but also not only just difficulties, one of the things that makes us so scared. And so we do things to protect ourselves from this poverty. And we're going to get to some of those right now. There's a lot of reason be afraid to be poor in America. If you're poor in America, sometimes you won't have a house. Living in Austin, we see an amazing amount of homelessness. But at our house here in Manti, I see no homelessness. With homelessness comes this fear of being stabbed, robbed, killed, and those kind of fears make us want to prepare ourselves against it. So here are some perceived causes of poverty, and this comes from an article titled An Attributional Analysis of Reactions to Poverty, the Political Ideology of the Giver, and the Perceived Morality of the Receiver. And basically in this article, it talks about a few of the perceived causes of poverty. This is what people think causes poverty, and they're not far off, but some of these things are a little off. So individualistic causes like alcohol and drug abuse very easily can cause poverty. Lack of skills and inability, sure. Lack of thrift, poor money management, not being able to control your money, absolutely. I would tie into that like things like excessive gambling or playing the stock market too crazy. No attempt at self-improvement, essentially just being lazy, But then there's also social causes, things like high taxes. We fear high taxes because if the government takes everything we earn, well then what's the reason to work? And then this idea of bad luck. Sometimes that is also a perceived cause of poverty. I'm not sure that it's an actual thing, but people do feel like sometimes bad luck plays a role in it. But here in America, we are still, for the time being, the richest country in the world. And even our impoverished, our homeless are richer than some people in some countries. And if you look here, since 2010, we have absolutely decimated poverty. We have brought poverty down. But this is up until 2019, of course. Once 2020 happened, poverty started increasing in this country for the first time in 10 years. And people only expect it to go higher. Again, just another anecdote from Austin. When I lived in Texas permanently in 2018, we did see poverty going down. We saw less homelessness. But over the explosion of the last year and a half, we have seen parking places, parking lots, library parking lots, places where the public is supposed to go. We've seen them being filled with tent cities in Austin, and this is terrifying. We want to do everything we can to protect ourselves against this, especially you as young students, and that's where economics comes in. Let me show you something about economics that will help. The actual causes of poverty in America, as defined by debt.org, are pretty interesting. Amongst the most impoverished in this country, those living in female-headed households with no husband present. Therefore, family structure is huge in America to keep poverty at low levels. Having, and look, not even just a husband, but having somebody in the household, a two-parent household, really affects the level of poverty in America. Also, secondly, young adults without a high school diploma is very highly the cause of poverty for some people. But I would go beyond just high school diploma. I think a lack of education, this is why college and economics and all these classes that you're taking right now that you might think I don't need, they are going to help you in the end. Those with education are less likely to be impoverished. And then, of course, and this makes total sense, those living in a family whose head is unemployed. If the head of the household is unemployed, most likely you are going to be impoverished. And we have seen unemployment skyrocket in the last year and a half. Of course, it has come down some, but we are still at very high levels. So yes, these are the reasons why poverty is increasing in America, and the reasons why you should be taking this class. You should keep going to college, and you should focus on, building a nice life for yourself. Lastly, I wanted to say a couple words to you guys about this semester, and to first of all, thank you for a great semester. These videos have been fun to make. I hope you've enjoyed them. I really appreciate everything you guys have said to me, and the work that you've done. You guys have all worked very, very hard, and I think honestly about 90% of you have done excellent in this class. You guys are probably going to be in the high A's to high B category. A couple of things to remind you guys of: the final exam is coming up. I will have the study guide available to you on Wednesday. I'm always available for any questions you might have. Please contact me. Keep in mind, text message is probably the fastest way. My number is located on the syllabus, but of course, email, I do check every day. Please fill out the student evaluation. That can be found on your Badger web. And thank you for a great summer term. You guys still have 3 weeks after this course ends to, enjoy a school-free summer. So yeah, hopefully I see you on campus later this year. And if this is the only class with me, I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you guys in the semester coming up. Have a great rest of your summer. Bye, guys.